All right, it's time for another 5 minutes here on CIH Media. Would like to introduce my guest today, coming to us all the way from Rochester, Minnesota, the newest member of the Minnesota Wild organization. It's Kirsten Krull. Kirsten, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's, trying to stay busy and find some things to do around the house. I've just been hanging around my dog a lot. So nothing too crazy for me, but thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Obviously, we're all trying to find something to do right now, but understand you've been finding ways to fill in your free time. What's our topic going to be here today?
Yeah, for me, I just graduated from St. Cloud State back in May, and my degree in mass communications or broadcast journalism. And, it's as everyone is aware, sports were kind of on hold for a while there and didn't really pick up till, mid-July. And so it was just a lot of sitting around and waiting. And then somebody reached out to me over Twitter and said that there would be the opportunity if I was interested in covering some high school games, doing camera, play-by-play, color. So I've been in a suburb working for a high school near the Twin Cities here in Minnesota, doing football, soccer, volleyball. So it's been a little challenging just because I haven't done a ton of color commentating or play-by-play, but it's been a lot of fun.
Well, how about that? Something good came out of Twitter. You don't hear about that too often nowadays. Well, let's dive deeper into that a little bit. Of course, with everything going on, you got to make some adjustments. So let's put 5 minutes on the clock and let's talk about your journey right now through the ranks of the play-by-play. So you're out there, you're calling high school games. Obviously, things have finally not all the way back to normal, but they're getting there. What are some of the adjustments that you've had to make going out to the facilities to call some of these games?
Well, first and foremost, you have to wear a mask going in. So that alone is a little different. You have to keep it on up until you're about to go on air. Then when you're on your headset, then you can take it off and be without until after the game. But I think that's something everyone's just been getting used to, having to wear a face mask. But another thing too is just the atmosphere is a little bit different. I just worked a football game on Wednesday. And when you think high school football, you don't really think high school football on a Wednesday night. So just because, not necessarily of any positive test, but the schedule has been changed up so much here in Minnesota for the entire fall sports season. We didn't even think we were going to be able to play football over the summer because the MSHSL had said we're going to push it to the spring. Then early October, I believe is when it was, they said, actually, we're going to reinstate it for this fall, have a shorter season. There's not going to be a state tournament, so that itself is also a little bit different. No state tournaments for fall sports. And yeah, just even adjusting to the lack of a crowd. We're limited to 250 people even in the stand. So it's not your typical game atmosphere, especially when it comes to football that you're used to when you go into covering games. But I'm at least thankful just to be working and to have some sports to watch.
Most of our viewers are here in Southern California, and right now there's nothing. High school sports cannot begin until at the earliest December right now. Games can't even be played until after the first of the year. Right now, that could change. It could be pushed back even further. We don't know yet. It's just been pretty much a holding pattern here. Let's talk about some of the things behind the scenes also. When you look at being up in the press box, is that experience changed, or the limiting capacity in the press box? Do you have to be spread out? What does that look like when you're up there calling a game?
At least for where I'm at right now, it's not a big press box to begin with. So I think at most there's really only been 6 or 7 people, and you're next to the person who you're working with. I don't know how to necessarily explain, but me and the play-by-play guy, and we're the only ones in this section of the press box. Then there's a wall on one side, a wall on the other. Then you have people doing video or whatever they're doing in the room right over from the other school. So they're more separated. Then you have the announcers and people that are part of the school over in another segment too. So just by design of how the press box is in general, people are more spread out to begin with. So that stayed pretty consistent, at least in that aspect.
I've had so many times where there just wasn't room in the press box for us that we've literally had to be on top of the press box or outside the press box. And I'm so glad we didn't have to do it in Minnesota during this time of the year. So I will always be forever grateful for that. It does get cold, but I'm sure not like that. Let's talk about the gameplay a little bit with the student athletes. Do you notice any hitches in their regular routines, or does it look like they're a step slower because they haven't had time to prepare, or do the games look normal?
For the most part, the games, they look pretty normal, picking up right where they left off. I mean, you didn't necessarily have a typical off season to prepare, but for the most part, just watching these guys take the field, expectations for how they were supposed to perform as well, they seem to be pretty evenly matched. And I think credit to that just goes to coaches I've talked to who have said they've implemented training packets for each athlete to do on their own terms to keep up in shape. And I think a lot of the athletes individually did a really good job staying in shape. And I think the biggest thing too, just going back to wearing masks, the only thing that I've really seen, besides also being spread out on the sidelines and on the bench, trying to maintain that 6 feet of distance, is just seeing all these kids during warm-ups wearing masks and everything, because that's not typically anything we're used to.
Well, it is nice to know that they are taking all the necessary precautions they need to get back on the field. And all we can hope for here in California is that we look to other places around the country and realize that, yeah, it's probably a safe thing that can be done. But, it's always about following the science and making sure that safety is our number one priority. And it sounds like out there in Minnesota, things are going just A-OK. Well, good luck with the rest of the season and all the games that you're going to be calling here in the near future. And more importantly, good luck with the Minnesota Wild, and hopefully we'll be able to talk to you soon.
Yeah, again, thank you so much for having me on, and I'm really excited. I officially start here within the week, so really excited to get going and have work to do again. It'll feel nice to feel somewhat normal.
Oh, well, we wish you the best and good luck over there with the Wild one more time. Kirsten, Krull, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks again for having me.